All right, so second review coming in. Um, yeah, so I finished this book also about a couple of weeks ago, but didn't manage to record the review yet. So the book is Utas és Holdvilág, and yeah, by Serbantal. Also, in the English title is called Journey by Moonlight. So, originally, I received this book as a present when I finished secondary school for all the participation in different sport events, and I remember when first I tried to read this book. Probably I was like 19 or something like that. I was totally off by the whole how the book was written, what it was about, the main protagonist, and everything about him. So, I think it's correct to say that I was kind of disgusted with the protagonist, just because how off-putting, just because how different he was from myself, and back then that was really hard for me to actually read something that my values were so different from this imaginary person. And uh, and the funny thing is that I remembered in a totally different way of what happened, because I actually got to the first, well, I'm not quite sure, but around probably the first 100 pages. And originally, I seem to recall, yeah, obviously, spoiler alerts. So I seem to recall that Mihai, the main protagonist, basically left her wife uh, in Italy on the train. So it was totally by his choice. And when I read this properly for the second time, a few weeks ago, I realized that that wasn't even the case. This guy accidentally jumped on the wrong train, and this resulted in them being separated. So that was kind of funny, at least for me. Like, I had totally different memories. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to mention it. So I'm not quite sure what I did wrong there on the first try, or like why I remembered completely differently. But that's what happened. Anyways, when I started to read this book on the second try, it was much more enjoyable. Actually, it was very good. What I did is I read around 50 pages each day, and to be honest, this book is like very, how should I put, like has very big fonts, and the rows and lines are very narrow, so it's kind of easy to read, even like 50 pages a day. So that was not really hard. But I was much more engaged with the book compared when I was reading it for the first time. And basically, what I want to talk about is the main character, the protagonist called Mihai, and what I think he means, at least for me. So obviously, the main story is Mihai and Erzsi basically going on their honeymoon trip. Then they got separated. Then Mihai kind of wants to live this different life that he was living before, while Erzsi also, again, tries to live a different life. They met so many old acquaintances and friends, which in turn changes a little bit about the story. It seems like that they, in the end, gonna end up with like a totally different life compared to what they started with. But in the end, in the last like 20 pages, everything goes back to the starting point. So it's like a circle, very interesting to see. And symbolically, I would say that Mihai, for me at least, means like the average Joe in today's society. People who want to live a different and more exciting life than currently what they have. So I would imagine that like 90% of the people live very similarly, meaning they have a job, probably they have some kids, and then, I don't know, have a very similar daily routine. And I would imagine that most people want to live a little bit different life, want to explore new things, and experience exciting things. So at least that's for me. So Mihai at least is somebody who is just like everyone else, but thinks that he's different. And and I think, but again, I'm not quite sure because it was quite a while ago when I read it. But I seem to recall that actually Mihai telling himself that he's actually different, but he's kind of the, you know, the his life is the result of external effects. So really, he has no control. But when this whole thing happens at the train station in Italy, when they get separated, this is like kind of an external event that kind of separates his life at that point from his previous one. So now he actually has a chance to live a different life, and that's what he actually tries to do. And he didn't really succeed. I remember that he goes from town to town and life is really good, but of course money starts to run out. Then he starts not going out for restaurants, and then starts going worse and worse hotels and stuff like that. Then he eventually borrows money from other people. So it's kind of funny that and at the same time, up until that moment, he kind of tells himself like this is a life that he can do. At the same time, Erzsi feels offended, but doesn't want to divorce Mihai, which is an interesting phenomenon again. Probably the reason being that, at least Erzsi for me as well, is looking for someone who is a little bit more interesting than the average dudes. And in Mihai, she kind of founds this somebody, because once they separate, she has the option to go back to her ex, who is like rich, who is, I don't know, wants to give everything to her. But this is not something that excites her. So that's also interesting. She also kind of goes to her own way, meeting different people, having like very short relationships with these interesting people, such as I don't even know the full name of his, but like his first name is Janos. Meanwhile, Mihai kind of meets with his old friends, namely Eric. Well, he couldn't meet Tamás because Tamás was dead, and Eva. And I was also trying to think like what these people actually meant in terms of are they a symbol of something? And for me at least, and this is probably not really correct, but this is what I kind of came up with, is Eric and Tamás kind of are the people who Mihai aspired to be. They are these social outcasts, sort of. They are these strange people who actually lived their life as such, what Mihai actually wanted to do, but was never brave enough. So it kind of symbolized, I think, that one. What I'm not quite sure is what it meant when Tamás actually committed suicide. I don't know, some time ago, before we actually meet Mihai. So we start off that Tamás was already dead, while Eric is doing his stuff at the local, not local church, but monastery rather. And it's all really interesting. I'm not quite sure what the difference is there. And we have also Eva, who is the eternal love of Mihai, even though he doesn't want to admit it. And Eva outright rejects Mihai, probably because Mihai is not really the same as Tamás and Eric in terms of being an outcast. And it seems to me, at least, that Eva is attracted to these kinds of people, and Mihai is just a pretend person. So obviously that doesn't really work out. Again, I'm also not really sure about that, and I don't even remember if Eva had like big roles in the actual action that happened. So yeah, I think this is what I actually wanted to say. Yeah, and again, what the funny thing is that at the end of the book, in a very quick fashion, everything goes back to their normal state. Also, Erzsi, I believe, goes back to her ex, maybe. And yeah, there is this notion throughout the book that Mihai is actually like a child, right? Like even though he's an adult, he's acting like a child. He feels like a child. He feels like he's not ready for the real world. And at the end of the book, when again Mihai doesn't have any money and like nothing is going good for him, his father actually comes, tells her the situation, tells him to come back, and this is where the book actually ends. So Mihai goes back with his father to his normal life, and also I think Erzsi goes back as well. So it's really interesting that at the end, basically the book's end is kind of the same as the book's starting point, and I guess this means that, at least what I think it means, that even though Mihai got a chance to live again this outcast life that he always aspired to live, when granted the opportunity, he realized that he, again, not enough for this, and actually goes back to his normal life. So yeah, and now to the final point, like, do I recommend this book? Did I enjoy this book? I think this book was actually really good, which was really surprising. One of my old friends actually recommended me this book. That was the whole reason why, again, I picked this up, because I already had this notion that this book was actually quite bad and I don't want to read this ever. But this acquaintance told me that this was actually her favorite book. So I was like, okay, let's give it a second try. And I'm glad that I did. It was really nice. So if you're looking for a new book to read in Hungarian or in English, because this is also in English, I definitely recommend. Obviously, now that I spoiled the whole thing, I guess these recommendations are not really useful. So what I think I need to do is do it in reverse. First, do the recommendation and then do the spoiler field review. But yeah, that's gonna happen next time. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time.